Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of First Thessalonians, the 3rd chapter. Wherefore, when we could no longer forbear, we thought it good to be left at Athens alone. And so this is Paul continuing his writing to the believers in Thessalonica, right? And remember, ending off in the 2nd chapter, he was talking about how they so desired to come back and see them, but Satan hindered. So here in the NLT, it says, finally, when we could stand it no longer, we decided to stay alone in Athens, which really was mainly Paul that was alone in Athens, and sent Timotheus, our brother and minister of God, and our fellow laborer in the gospel of Hamashiach, to establish you and to comfort you concerning your faith. So that's why I mentioned that in the 1st chapter, that, you know, while Paul was there, he gave instruction for Timothy to go and to confirm and establish the believers there in Thessalonica, that no man should be moved by these afflictions, right? So nobody would be troubled in mind over the things that you have to suffer. For yourselves know that we are appointed thereunto, right? So it comes with the job, right? You know already that this is a part of the things to expect. For verily, when we were with you, we told you before that we would suffer tribulation. So a part of the things we taught you was that tribulation would come for the things we believe in, even as it came to pass, and you know, right? And just as while they were there, they suffered an example of it, right? Which the believers there witnessed in having to evacuate Paul and Silas and Timothy out of there. For this cause, and also, I forgot what chapter it's in, but remember what they did to Jason, right? And the other brethren that believed, who they thought Paul was at his house. They thought he was housing Paul, right? And they brought him, and basically he had to, you know, pay that amount to be let go. And, you know, all of those things, they were part of the afflictions that they had to suffer. For this cause, when I could no longer forbear, I sent to know your faith. That is, by sending Timothy to go and check up on you, lest by some means the tempter have tempted you and our labor be in vain, right? So he sent Timothy in hopes that, you know, Satan wasn't using anybody, be it those those wicked Jews that had persecuted him and got him out of there, right? Or those that were going around teaching something contrary to what Paul was teaching, to tempt them or deceive them and overthrow their faith. And in doing so, make the work that Paul had done to be in vain. But now when Timotheus came from you unto us and brought us good tidings, which is good news, of your faith and charity, and that's in Acts, was it 18, where it mentions that when Timothy and Silas came back to Paul, they brought him that news. And brought us good tidings of your faith and charity, and that ye have good remembrance of us always, desiring greatly to see us, as we also to see you. So he was relieved to hear that okay, they're doing good. You know, they weren't shaken up. They're not, you know, leaving the faith. They didn't become weak, you know, but they still keep us in mind, you know, and all of that. Therefore, brethren, we are comforted over you in all our affliction and distress by your faith. So in all the things that we are suffering, you know, we're comforted at least by your faith. For now we live if ye stand fast in the Lord. And I'll read that here in the NLT. It says, it gives us new life to know that you are standing firm in the Lord. That's a figure of speech. For what thanks can we render to God again for you? And what I mean by that is, you know, it's not like they died and lived again, right? But it's like a refreshing feeling to know that you're standing firm in the faith. For what thanks can we render to God again for you? For all the joy wherewith we joy for your sakes before our God. So how can we even thank the Lord, you know, for you, right? As it says, for all the joy wherewith we joy for your sakes. because they're so happy that, the believers there were continuing in the faith. Night and day, praying exceedingly that we might see your face and might perfect that which is lacking in your faith. So Paul, as he's saying, right, was praying, heavily to have a chance to go back there, to see them, to speak to them, and anything and where they were lacking, or were weakened, he might strengthen them. Now God himself and our Father and our Lord Yahushua HaMashiach direct our way unto you. So basically, by the will of the Lord, may we be able to someday make our way back to you. And the Lord make you to increase and abound in love one toward another and toward all men, even as we do towards you. Right? And that love goes into also being hospitable, to the end he may establish, which is another way of saying establish, your hearts unblameable in holiness before God. So in doing so, right, and you walking in these ways, the Lord would establish or confirm your minds in an unblameable way, right, and in being holy through your actions and your faith before God, even our Father, at the coming of our Lord Yahushua with all his saints, right, so that you can be confirmed, you can be established, and at the return of the Lord, you can be found holy and unblameable, when the Lord comes back, as it says, with all his saints. And those are the Israelites. Because remember, well, I think he's actually going to go into it in the next chapter or the 5th about the those that died in Yahushua. So this brings us to the end of the book of 1 Thessalonians, the 3rd chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rachak, Wadash. And until next time, Shalom.